me give this. This past week, I got to do something really, really amazing. As a lot of you know, like one of my soapboxes I'm always standing on, like this drum I'm always beating, is my respect. I have such respect for our military men and women and our law enforcement community, and I'm always talking about how we need to give it up for them. Yeah. I'm a wannabe, all that, but I just think we ought to take good care of these folks, especially those that are coming back from a long time away from home. But yeah, I'm really vocal about that, and because of that, it's opened up a lot of great doors and opportunities for me to meet a lot of men and women in these communities and have some great conversations. And I've talked about everything from what's your favorite gun to shoot, at cardboard, take a breath, it's all right? Or, I've been to Afghanistan like 7 times, and kind of compare notes and stuff like that. And after a while, talking to some of these men and women, we get to have conversations about life and about God, about family, and just problems and pressures. And so over the last couple of years, I've made some really good friends in these communities. And so I was really excited. A few months ago, I was invited by a couple of my friends who serve in Boulder County SWAT and Wildland Fire Department to attend their Mountain Subarctic Training event. In the mountains, and they asked me to come give this leadership talk to kind of kick off this leadership challenge that they're going to be doing as a department over the next several months. And they said right up front, Jim, we don't have a budget for it, we can't pay anything, but we got it clear that you can participate in any of our non-lethal exercises and drills. And I gotta be honest with you, I didn't even pray about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't call my wife. No, I just said, yes, I'm in. I'll do it, all right? And so that was this past Tuesday. And so this past Tuesday, we drove up in the mountains to this trailhead, and we loaded all of our equipment on these sleds, and then we jump on these big giant snow machines, snowmobile things, and we head out into the mountains, about 45 minutes out in the middle of nowhere to these old cabins. And I've done a lot of retreats and stuff in my life, and so it kind of went as I thought. We get our bunks and stuff like that, and we unpack, we grab dinner, and then my friend Jay teaches this awesome session, and then we take a break, I teach a session, and then everybody heads out into the woods for night navigation, because it's SWAT, all right? And so I'm like, oh, this is so good. And then everybody comes back in, kind of debriefs everything, and I'm thinking, it's like 11 o'clock, it's time to go to bed, but no, oh no. No, this is where it gets fun, it gets interesting. Jay looks at me and goes, hey, a few of us, it's 11 o'clock, right? A few of us are going out on snowmobiles in the mountains, do you wanna go? Now, time out here. I want to talk to all the ladies in the room real quick, all right? Especially the single ladies. So just so you know what you're signing up for if you ever decide to go down this route. But also I want to talk to the married women, and you'll know who they are. They're the ones that are going to look at the guy next to them and go, pitiful, in just a second, all right? And here's what I want you to know, okay, in case you want to kind of second guess anything, but something happens, and it's not our fault. But something happens to men when you put them out in the woods with a bunch of other alpha dogs out there, all right? And you could ask them any question, and whatever that question is, no matter what it is, the answer that comes back will not be based on logic or reason or reality. I can do that. No. It'll be driven by this insane caveman, testosterone-driven need to prove something, all right? No matter what you ask us. So even though when Jay goes, hey, do you want to go out on snowmobiles in the mountains at midnight, in that moment, all my fears and memories of the trip up here, my burning thighs, my lungs are going to explode, all that kind of stuff, all those thoughts got swept away in a moment, and so the word absolutely came tumbling out of my mouth. All right? And so we go outside, all right? And again, it's about 11 o'clock at night. Jay puts me on this supercharged snow machine, and he goes, hey, Jim, have you spent much time on one of these before? And again, what I should have said is, if I was honest, I'm not, but I said, I should have said, no, not very much time. Last time I rode one was about 20 years ago on a golf course in Indiana. That's not what I said. What came out was, yeah, I got this, no problem, let's go. And so we did, all right? So we jump on it. I'm like, I don't know what these buttons do. But anyway, we go off, and we head off into the woods, and I am good for about 23 seconds, all right? I'm going down there, and the trail gets narrow and narrow and narrow, and we start taking off down these narrow, really, really narrow paths, and I'm like, I didn't know we were gonna go up there, but we are, all right? And so I'm going through the woods, I got this helmet on, and these goggles on, and these pine branches are smacking me in the face, and as these pine branches are going by, so are visions of my life, and I'm riding on, I'm going, I love you, Robin, and my life, I remember when I was a kid, they're going by, and there's part of me that's just going, it's crazy, and we're all kind of in a line, all right, and so all the lines going straight, and then they all turn, but not me, I just go straight. I'm like, oh! All right, so I find myself buried up in about 10 feet of snow, and I'm like, hey, there's snow, all right, but it's no problem, because I'm with SWAT. All right, so this guy named Nick comes and he helps dig me out, and before you know it, we're back on the trail about 15 minutes later, and we're going down the trail, and it happens 3 more times. It does. So anyway, so finally we get up to this like glacier area way up high in the mountains, and I'm exhausted. I am worn out, but I'm not about to say to a bunch of SWAT guys, hey guys, can we rest? Pastor Jim's a wuss and I just need to take a break. I'm not gonna do that, you know? No, I should have, but yet when asked, hey Jim, how you doing? My response was, I got this. I figured out what I did wrong, let's just keep on going. But the truth is, I had no idea what I was doing, but we kept going. But when I said I got this, Craig, the leader, believed me, all right? And so he says, well, let's go on to an even harder trail. And so we take off down this trail, all right? And it's on a ridge, all right? And it drops off to the right. And it's probably just 10 or 20 feet down there. But in my mind, it's like a mile down there, all right? So I'm concentrating really hard. Stay away from the edge, stay away from the edge, stay away from the edge. Yet I can't, all right? So I'm like, oh, it's sucking me over. And I go over the edge, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! And I'm not swearing. I'm calling out to my Lord. Catch me, I'm coming home, all right? I'm like, ah, all right. And so I hear Jay behind me goes, bail, bail, bail. I'm like, ah, all right. So I bail, and I'm rolling down the hill, and the snowmobile's going down the hill, and finally I land, and I'm like, everything important's in place, all right? And then all these SWAT guys come running over because they think we killed Pastor Jim 4 days before Easter, and this is not good, all right? So they all come over, and I'm fine, and so finally they dig me out, and we're on our way back on this really flat trail back to the cabin, and they're like, I thought he was better than that, but I'm not. And the story's not even over, right? So we get back to the cabin, and I'm like, hey, that was awesome. All right, and so I'm sleeping on a couch, and so I go over to the couch, and I pull up my phone, I got service, so I thought I'm gonna text Robin, all right? My wife, and so I text her, and you can see my phone if you don't believe me, but here's what I texted Robin at 1 o'clock Wednesday morning. Just went on a 90-minute ride on a snow machine through the mountains at night, got stuck 3 times, rolled it once, good times. That's what I texted her. 5 minutes later, I get this text back from my wife, all right? Oh my gosh, all caps, you rolled it? Please be careful. Don't come home if you're paralyzed. Love you. Will you stop and get the mail? That's on my phone. Please pray for Robin. The funniest part is I showed that to all these guys, and I look what my wife said, and every one of those guys went, yeah, my wife said the same thing. Don't go kill yourself, all right? Now here's why I tell you that story. First of all, it's awesome. It's an awesome story. But here's what I tell you kind of on Easter. I assume that this is true on some level for everybody in the room, male, female, whatever, but it's just true that men, but let's not say that. Let's just say people, we do things, and to other people who are watching us do them, it's obvious to them we shouldn't do it. You know, they just don't. And in the moment that we're even doing this stuff, there's this voice, there's something in us saying, you probably shouldn't do this, you should stop, go back, whatever. And even looking back on different parts of our life, if we could get that moment back, right? If we could go push rewind, get that event back, or that evening back, or that night, or that semester in college, whatever, if we got a do-over, we would do it different. I probably shouldn't have done that, right? If we could get a do-over, we would get a do-over. But the reality is, here's what I want to talk about this morning. This is a lot of our stories. For a lot of us, something has happened in our life, right? And I'm not talking about snowmobiles anymore. Something happened in our past. Our fault, we made a mistake, we shouldn't have been on that trail, you know, we didn't make a turn, made a bad decision, whatever. Or how about this? Somebody else made a bad choice and it landed on us. We didn't do anything wrong. Somebody else did something and it kind of landed on us. And the result is it left us hurt and broken, maybe even paralyzed, unable or unsure what to do next. And a lot of us feel stuck, right, trapped. And unless something major happens, we're gonna stay stuck. But a lot of us have already given up any hope that we're ever gonna get unstuck. This is just it. That's just a lot of our stories. And that's the kind of situation that Jesus walks in on in our story that I want us to look at today. So we're gonna find the story that we're gonna look at today in John chapter 5. It was written by a man named, see, you're spiritual. Look, I knew that, I got one. Yeah, all right. And John was there. And here's what I mean by that. John didn't hear this from somebody whose grandma used to go to school with No, John was there. And he wrote down, this is how I remember what I saw this day in Jerusalem. So John chapter 5, verse 1, here's what he says. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which has 5 roofed colonnades. Now, most of the stories we've looked over the last several weeks, Jesus has been up in the northern part of Israel called Galilee. It's kind of divided into states. But now Jesus has gone down south to the capital of Israel called Jerusalem. And even though it says he went up to Jerusalem, it's because Jerusalem's on a hill. So no matter where you are, you always go up to Jerusalem. And the reason Jesus went to Jerusalem is he's a good Jewish man. And all good Jewish men go to Jerusalem for Jewish holidays. And so Jesus and all his friends, they all go to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem's like a major city in this part of the Middle East, all right? It still is today. It's a walled city, and to get into at least the middle of the city where the temple was, you had to pass through one of the gates. There are several gates. They've been excavated. You can go there today and see them. And one of these gates is called the Sheep Gate. And the reason it's called the Sheep Gate is that's probably where they brought in all the lambs and all the sheep to sacrifice in the temple, which they had to do every Passover. And if you go inside the Sheep Gate, off to the side, there's this big ceremonial pool called Bethesda. And around this pool, there are these columns with roofs on them because it's really hot there during the summertime, and people go in there to get out of the shade when they come to this pool. All right, now, verse 3. In these shaded porches, in these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. And I'm just trying to set the scene for you here, all right? Around this pool, people with all kinds of disabilities and injuries used to come every day and sit there. Or they'd be brought by their families because some people believed, and this isn't in the Bible, this isn't in the Jewish religion, this is just kind of a wives' tale that had made its way around Jerusalem. Somebody had spread a rumor that every once in a while, an angel would come and stir up the water, and when the water was bubbling, if you're sick, first one in the water gets healed. All right? Which I don't mean to be insensitive, but that would be kind of fun to be there, all right? And I don't know if someone yells, bubbles, and then somebody blows a whistle, and then people run for it, and people are hitting people with crutches, get out of the way. I ran that by somebody with a disability. They thought it was funny, so lighten up. It's all right. I'm not a nice person. Some of you are going, that's your pastor? I know. All right, but anyway, so when the water bubbles, first one in gets healed. That's what they believed, all right? Now, I don't know if it ever worked, but that's what they believed. Verse 5, one man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. Now that's important on several different levels, all right? First of all, let's look at it. It says that he was an invalid, which can be translated a lot of different ways, paralyzed a lot of different ways, but the word literally translates unable or too weak to move. Unable or too weak to move because of a past illness or an injury. Now let's kind of personalize this, okay? Last week we looked at this guy who got lowered through this roof, and we didn't know his name, so we just gave him a name, Joe, all right? His name wasn't Joe, but just so he's not just a guy in the Bible, we called him Joe. So this week, let's just call this guy Bob, all right? So today we're gonna talk about Bob. His name's not Bob. Don't go home and try to find Bob in your Bible. He's not there, okay? But this guy that we're gonna talk about, that's laying here by the pool for 38 years, let's just call him Bob. Something has happened in Bob's life in the past. And the Bible doesn't tell us what it is. And I'm really glad the Bible doesn't tell us what happened to Bob, because if it did, most of us would conclude, oh, well, it's about that. See, Jesus did that for Bob, but my thing's not like Bob, so Jesus is only talking about Bob. All that to say this is that if we'll just let the Bible say what it says and not try to limit it, then for a lot of us, it's not too hard to get to, well, I'm not Bob, but I felt like that. I can relate to that. I mean, I don't know what happened to him, but I know something happened to me, but I can relate to Bob. Again, just fill in the blank. I don't think we're doing disservice to the Bible to say, I wonder if this is what happened. Maybe it was a physical problem. Maybe Bob went snowmobiling in the mountains, all right? Or snow camel riding. I don't know what they did then, all right? But whatever, he didn't make a turn. He crashed into a tree, broke his back, and for the last 38 years, he can't walk. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened, some of our stories. Maybe Bob didn't do anything wrong. Maybe somebody did something to Bob and broke him. Maybe he had been through a really horrible time in his life. All right? Maybe he had lost somebody really important to him, and the trauma or the loss was just too much. And after he lost it or her or him or whatever, he just kind of curled up in a ball and said, I'm done. I can't do this. I don't even want to live anymore. If I can't have her, or if I can't have them, or if it's just, I can't go on. And for the last 38 years, Bob's kind of been in the fetal position. I'm tired. I'm too weak to move. That's some of our stories. You know, maybe Bob's friends or families, they've tried everything they can to help fix Bob, but nothing has worked. So maybe in desperation, they just pick him up every day and carry him to the pool and say, okay, Bob, you know the drill. If it bubbles, get in, but we have to go to work and we'll pick you up on the way home. Good luck. We don't know why. We don't know how Bob got broken. Here's what we do know from what the Bible teaches us is this, that whatever it was that had happened or was happening to Bob was not a short-term thing. And that's really important. This isn't like Bob had a problem on Tuesday, Jesus shows up on Saturday and fixes it. No. This has been going on for how long? 38 years, which in a society where most men didn't live past 50 very far, right? That means this is that whatever had happened to him happened a long time ago and had dominated and had defined almost all of his life. And this is the man Jesus finds lying by the pool. Verse 6. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, I love this, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be healed? And this is really interesting to me. Because up to this point, every other story I've read about Jesus, that he's healed or fixed or whatever, they've come to him. They heard about Jesus, or their friend heard about Jesus, and they came or they were carried there, and they said, hey, Jesus, here's my problem, and I need you to help me. But this time, Jesus is the one who comes looking for Bob. He comes looking for the person in need and offers to help. And he asks him a really interesting question. He looks at Bob and he says, hey, do you want to get well? And I know it said healed earlier, but well is a better translation. I'll explain that in a minute. But Jesus could have picked any of the words in the language that he wanted to ask that question, but his word selection is really, really, really important. Look at this. Let's break it down. It'll make sense why I want to spend so much time on this. First, Jesus says this, do you want? Do you want? Which translates, do you have the desire? Or do you have enough desire? Or enough, I really want. Do you have enough that it would lead you to do or try something that you're currently not doing or trying? Maybe that would lead to something changing in your life. So do you want? How much do you want? What? Do you want to get? Do you want to get? Which translates to bring something into existence that currently doesn't exist. So put that together, here's what Jesus is saying, or asking. Do you have the desire, and are you willing to do whatever it takes to bring something that currently isn't existing or happening in your life into existence in your life and happening in your life? Like what? Well, how about this? Do you want to get well? And while well sometimes can be translated healed, and that's not a bad translation, this time the better translation out of the Greek would be this. Do you want to be whole? Whole. Do you want to become whole? Because right now, you're not. You're not whole. And I don't think Jesus is even talking about Bob's physical condition. I had a conversation out in the lobby last night with a lady in a wheelchair. She says, are you saying if my body doesn't work, I'm not whole? No. I think Jesus is saying, in spite of what's going on in your body, there's something else going on. You're not whole. I'm not talking about your body. See, Bob, listen, do you want something different than this? See, right now, you're paralyzed, you're weak, and you're broken. And this has been your life for the last 38 years. My question is, do you want something different than a kind of life or a part life? Do you want to become whole? Now, don't read ahead. Look up here, okay? Don't tell me what to do. I'm going to read ahead. All right, just look up here, all right? If you were Bob, if you were, put yourself in his shoes, or sandals, whatever, all right? So if you were Bob and your life had been defined by a horrible traumatic event that had kind of left you curled up in a ball and defined your life and affected how you saw everybody else and how everybody saw you, had determined what you could do or how much you could do it. And if somebody came up to you and asked you, hey, do you, fill in your name here, do you want something different? Do you want something better? What would you have said if the last 38 years of your life had been a disaster? Hold on to that, because this is what Bob says. Here's how Bob answers Jesus' question, verse 7. The sick man answered him, sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water stirred up, and while I'm going, another steps down before me. See, Jesus finds this guy, he knows all about him and what happened to him. Jesus knows what the last 38 years have been like, and he asks him, question, do you want things to change? Do you want things to be better? Do you want a whole life, the whole life that you were meant to have, that you always dreamed of having back when you were a kid, but somewhere along the way, somebody or something ripped you off and left you with this? Do you want something better than this? And the man responds with a list of all the reasons why life has never changed so far and why it's probably never going to change in the future. No one will help me. It's not my fault. I've tried before. Other people get in my way, make it impossible. But that's not what Jesus asked. Jesus didn't ask, hey, Bob, why are you still sitting here? He doesn't ask, why are you still broken? Why haven't you fixed? Or why haven't you gotten over whatever it is that happened to you and left you weak and paralyzed? That's not what Jesus asked him. What Jesus asked him is this, hey, do you even want things to change anymore? Do you want things to change to the point that you have the desire and the willingness to do or try or believe something is still possible that you never even considered before? Because it sounds like, I know you come here to the healing pool every day and you say you want things to change, and apparently your friends and family who carry you, they want things to change for you, but the truth is, this is why I think Jesus is really asking this question. Based on your response, Bob, I think you have a bigger problem than my legs don't work and nobody will help me get in the water. Because it sounds like, Bob, you've given up. And you've accepted this broken, paralyzed, weak half of a life as all my life will ever be. And again, I don't think Jesus is talking about Bob's legs or his body. He's talking about Bob. Whether or not your legs ever work or not, Bob has decided, this is my life, this is all my life will ever be, and nothing is ever gonna change. Before we get too critical of Bob, you gotta think about it. Some of us in this room can relate to this. Some of us have been through some really, about 27 more relays, really hard stuff in our life. Some of us are in the middle of it, even right now, all right? It's what you've been thinking about. You've been thinking about Bob for the last 5 minutes. You've been thinking about you, and that's all right. Something happened. And maybe it's our own fault. Maybe we did something really dumb, really stupid. We shouldn't have done it, you know? Maybe we crashed, didn't make the corner, rolled down a hill, and it left us broken and paralyzed, and a lot of other people broken as well. We made a mistake, and since that time, we're stuck. And maybe we didn't do anything wrong. Maybe somebody did something to us. You ever had somebody do something to you? Hurt us, left us, lied to us, divorced us, cheated on us, held us down, molested us, abused us? That's some of our stories. And the result left us bleeding and broken, in pain, angry, bitter, sad, crushed, embarrassed, ashamed. And isn't it true that if Jesus or anybody else would come up to us in some of the moments of our pain and ask us this question, hey, do you want to not be angry and bitter all the time? Our response would not be, yeah, show me how. No, our response would be, what? Not be angry. Do you know what happened? Do you know my story? Listen, I deserve to be angry. You don't know what he did to me. You don't know what she was supposed to do, and she didn't do it. You don't know what happened. Yes, I'm bitter. I have a reason to be angry and bitter. Okay. Oh, okay, but that's not the question that's asked. The question Jesus asked was this: do you want your life to stay like this forever, or do you want to be whole? Do you want something better? And this guy, and sometimes a lot of our response is, why are you even asking me this? Nothing is ever going to change in my life. This is my life. Aren't you glad that Jesus doesn't wait for us to have a better attitude before he reaches out to us? I am, and that's what happens here. So this guy's just going off on Jesus like, nobody will help me, it's not my fault. Here's Jesus' response. Jesus said to him, get up, take up your bed and walk. And at once the man was healed, made whole. And he took up his bed and he walked. Now that day was the Sabbath. And don't miss this, all right? Here's the sequence of conversation we just looked at, all right? Jesus sees Bob. He knows what's really going on, not just with Bob's spine or his legs or his body, but he knows what's going on in Bob. And he asks this, hey, Bob, question, do you want to become whole? Or have you just kind of given up? Have you resigned to having what happened to you in the past, 10 years ago, 38 years ago, whatever, just keep on defining and dictating and determining the rest of your life? My past is my future. Is that what you want? Or do you want to be whole? And Bob's response, I can't be whole. Nothing's going to change and nobody will help me. Jesus' response, get up, take a step. Get up, walk. And Bob does it. Bob does it. And you're sitting here, because I know the conversations you have in your head when you sit in a room like this. You're sitting here going, yeah, well, Bob's a Bible person. He had a lot of faith. He believes all of Jesus stuff. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't have any faith at all. So how can you say that? Look down at verse 12, all right? On the way home from that pool, all right, Bob gets busted. He gets pulled over by the religious police. They do, all right, because it's the Sabbath, and they pull him over and go, excuse me, sir, you're not allowed to carry a mattress on Saturday. You're a sinner, you're going to hell. There's no, hey, Bob, you're not paralyzed, high five. No. It is, hey, you're carrying a mattress, you're going to hell. So finally they said, who healed you? They asked him, who is the man who said to you, take up your bed and walk? We'll go find him, all right? Verse 13, look at this. Now the man who had been healed, AKA Bob, did not know who it was. I don't know who healed me. For Jesus had withdrawn as there was a crowd in the place. You catch that? Bob's not a Christian. He's never been to church, all right? He's never heard a good Led Zeppelin song. He's never been to Easter service, all right? This is all we know about Bob. Bob is stuck. He's stuck in a really bad life, and a guy named Jesus, he finds out later, asks him if he wants his life to be different and better than it currently is. And despite the fact that Bob can't even imagine or see how things could ever change, at least for the better, when Jesus said, I want you to do one thing, he said, I'll do it. And he did it, and he took a step, and then another step, and another step, and another step, and then he walked all the way home, something he hadn't done in 38 years. And if you would ask him 5 minutes ago, do you think this is possible? He would have looked at you and told you you're crazy. I'm never gonna walk. Nothing's ever gonna change. And Jesus finds him later, and they have this great conversation. But let me ask you this again. Does any of this kind of line up with your story? See, our goal in this whole series, all right, is I want to get to know Jesus better than I currently do. And again, some of us know him pretty well, but some of us, we have no idea who he is, let alone any confidence that Jesus can change or fix anything in our lives. Okay, all right, regardless of what you believe about God or Jesus, all right, I think we can all believe this. Isn't it true that stuff happens? I cleaned it up, it's Easter, all right? It's just true that the stuff happens in our life or has happened or is happening right now in our lives, and that stuff has left us living lives that aren't even close to the whole complete lives that we know we were meant to live. At one time, years ago, we had hopes and dreams of being that man or being that woman or having that kind of life, but a long time ago, we put up a white flag and said it's never gonna happen because that happened, and I'm stuck. Isn't that true? And my question, or referring back to the story today, I think the question that Jesus would ask us, if he could sit down beside us and ask us, is not, whose fault is it that what happened to you? I don't think he would ask that. Because if I were to come up and ask, why are you stuck in your life? You would probably tell me your story. And if we all heard your story and we all voted, we'd be on your side. You're right. You're right, you have a good point. He's a creep. I don't blame you at all for being angry and bitter, right? But I don't think that's the question Jesus would ask. I don't think Jesus would say this. Do you think you deserve to be hurt or angry or bitter? Of course you do. I've heard some of your stories. I mean, as a pastor, I have the honor of you guys sharing some of your lives with me. And some of you come up to me and you tell me your stories. And because I'm Pastor Jim, I try not to act shocked, but inside I'm going, really? Really? I mean, some of you are going, you tell me you're angry, and my response inside is, if I were you, I'd be more angry. I'd be more bitter. I don't know how you're still alive. I mean, there's times when I want to go, he did that? Come on, you get him? I'll hold him, you hit him, let's go, all right? But I don't because I'm Pastor Jim, and all right. So anyway, right? But I don't think Jesus would ask us those questions. I think the question Jesus would ask us is this: do you want things to stay like this? Regardless of whose fault it is, and no matter if you deserve to be angry, do you want your life to stay like this? Do you want to continue to live like this, affecting you and everybody around you, and not for the better, or not in a good way? Or do you want something better? Even in this moment, you can't even imagine or picture how it will ever change or ever get better. Bottom line, do you want something better than what you currently have? I really do think that's what Jesus would ask us if he sat down beside us and just ask us one question. The second question, this is my question. Over the next several weeks here, we're going to keep on going down this series, but we're going to spend some time looking at just a few things that Jesus says, not Jim or Flatirons, who cares, all right? That Jesus says have to be in place in a person's life to have what he describes. Again, not what I describe. Jesus says, here's some things that have to be in place in your life for you to have a whole life, a better, full life. And just so you know, he's not going to give us a list of things to do. Go to church more, 3 out of 4 weeks. Pray more, give money to the poor, help puppies, things like that. It's not going to be a list of things to do. It's not. It's going to be more like a list of, have you ever thought about it like this? Have you ever looked at it or considered it like this? And again, I know the conversations you're having in your head with Jesus or with me or whatever it is. You're sitting there going, whoa, what's he going to tell me to do? What's God going to tell me to do? Is he going to tell me to change that and give up that because I'm not ready? Is he going to tell me to forgive her? Because I'm not doing it, all right? If you're going to ask me to forgive him or her for what they did to me, I'm not coming back. Let me just tell you, I have no idea what Jesus will tell you. That's between you and Jesus, right? To work out your stuff. I do know this. Is that there has to come a time in your life when you get sick enough or tired enough of just laying there all the time, paralyzed by what somebody did to you years ago or what something happened and it's defined the rest of your life. And you want something different. And here, this is deep. You want to write this down, right? The truth is, if nothing changes, nothing changes. He's a philosopher too, I know, all right? Right, think if things stay the same, then they're gonna stay the same. Things just don't get better on their own. So there are times or windows in your life, and maybe today is one of those windows where you're willing to at least say, I'll listen. I'm not committing to anything. I'll give it a try. Even if I don't believe everything that Jim or Scott or Jesus says, all right? I do know this. I want something better. I'm not saying that what I have is bad, but if it's important and I really love this, I want it to be better too. I want something better than it currently is. I want to be whole. My question is that you? I invite you to come back. Now, I'm going to stop there. How's that? I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to give you some time to think about whatever that is that's going on in your life. And I don't think we really have to think too hard about it. Is there something in my life that's not even close to what I always had hopes and dreams that it would be? I think you know.
So just like Jim said, we don't know what that area in your life is that you know there's got to be something better. Reality is people around you don't know. People you're sitting next to may not know. But here at Mosaic, we believe Jesus knows. He knows the thing in your life that you're telling yourself right now, this cannot be as good as it can be. And what Jesus is telling you today and what we believe is true is that he doesn't say, work harder to get better. He doesn't say, try harder, be a better person, and then things will work out. What Jesus says is that you take that thing and you give it to him. He said that his burden was light and it was easy. And that doesn't mean that we have to carry it. That means he carries it for us. And so we can take the things in our life that we know, this can't be it. This can't be all that I can experience. We can take that circumstance or that problem or that obstacle and give it to Jesus. And we believe that's true because of what he did more than 2,000 years ago, that we can believe him when he said he's the way, the truth, and the life. And the reason we believe that is because he died and then he came back to life. He died, he took our sin, our imperfection, and he buried it. And he said, watch this, I'm coming back. And in his death and resurrection, we have life. We can have a relationship with God. And so we're going to celebrate that reality that we're not here doing it on our own, that if we want something better, that's found in Jesus. And we're going to celebrate that by taking communion right now. We're going to pass a tray down your row with a stack of cups, one that has a cracker that represents Jesus' body and one that has some juice that represents his blood. And we encourage you to take that stack of cups to eat and to drink. And right now, my challenge and my encouragement for you is that you talk to God and say, I don't even know what it even looks like to experience something better here. Help me understand what I need to do. Or if you're in a place where you've never even trusted Jesus before, maybe to consider that. You've been trying something on your own for a long time and nothing's changed. Maybe it's time to try something new. So let's celebrate communion together and think about how can we trust Jesus with the things in our life so we know there's something better. Let's take communion together.